Welcome to Education Today, the guest teacher edition. I'm your host, Solanke. After 15 years as a secondary English teacher, I stepped away from the classroom and took a 1-year hiatus. Now I'm back in a completely new capacity. I'm a substitute teacher, and I get to experience teaching all grade levels and subjects from kindergarten to 12th grade. Join me as I document my journey, seeing education through a brand new lens and a different angle. Welcome back to Guest Teacher. I have lost count of which week this is for me as a substitute teacher. I think it might be week 6 though. As you can probably hear, by week 6, my voice is gone. Yes. As a teacher, I would always get sick around August when school was starting and January when school started back up. I'm not sure right now if I have a virus that I picked up from the kids or a bacterial infection. My voice is shot. And today I had to do a lot of talking for second grade. Kudos to all you second grade teachers and first grade and kindergarten. I don't know how you wrangle all those kids up and whip them into shape. That is not my calling in life, to teach second grade. But I can't complain. This was a good week. So what happened this week? Let me start by saying that I have a British accent. I grew up in the UK. My accent's probably a little different from what most people are used to hearing from Black people who grew up in the UK, because I am not from London. I did not grow up in London. I grew up in the northeast. Place called Middlesbrough, close to Scotland. I say that to Americans, it's close to Scotland, just to give them some bearings. I'm sure people from Middlesbrough were like, really? That close to Scotland? I mean, a couple of hours drive. But anyway, so I grew up in the northeast of England. I have a British accent. I've been in America for a little while, so I think it, you code switch a bit. I think it throws people off a little. But one thing I've noticed is that, so I substitute teach from, today was second grade. I try not to go lower than third grade. But I've been a specials teacher, so I've done kindergarten, first, second, and all the way up, and I've done middle school and high school. What I have noticed is that the younger the kids, the more they notice I have a British accent, and the more quickly they notice. The older the kids, it's like when you get to high school, those kids do not even say anything. They don't notice. It's like they tune us out as adults. They tune us out. Because as the specials teacher, if I have kindergartners first, second, third, that's one of the first things they ask once I've introduced myself. Are you from London? Are you from the UK? You sound British. and I'll say yes, and then they'll all start trying to talk in British accents. It's so funny. It's so funny. Too much exposure to Peppa Pig and Harry Potter, I guess. Harry Potter. The funniest one was I was teaching third grade, and I think I might have just been a specials teacher and had them for a period. And the usual question: are you from London? Are you from the UK? Yes. Yeah, I'm from England. Yeah. And then they all started speaking in a British accent, but it was one phrase. This girl started it. She asked me, "How do you ask for water in England?" I said, "You just ask for water." But that didn't satisfy her. She swears that we say, "Can I have a bowl of water? Can I have a bowl of water?" So they all started saying, "Can I have a bowl of water? Can I have a bowl of water?" I was like, you guys are stupid. Is everyone from the East End of London? Is everyone an East Ender? No. That's what they kept saying. They all started chanting, "Can I have a bottle of water? Can I have a bottle of water?" Hilarious. Kids say the darndest things. But again, it's the younger kids that notice. High schoolers do not notice. We're lucky if 8th graders notice. 6th graders would. But it's the elementary kids that notice, which just confirms to me that high schoolers, they tune us out. They're not listening to us. I had a really cool experience in elementary school that has a different type of population. A lot of Asian kids. China, India, Pakistan, Middle East, North Africa also. Um, so a lot of Arabic speakers. It was really interesting. So I had some really cool conversations with some kids. There was a kid in there. He was from China. He had it. He was developing English. He had a decent amount of English. He was developing English. There was a time when we were doing quiet reading, and he picked up a book and he was reading the book. I didn't pay any attention to what he was reading. All of a sudden, it's quiet, and I'm at the desk, and he asks me, "Miss, what year were you born in?" So, I think you can't ask a lady that. But I was like, let me play along. I told him the year I was born. And he said, that's the year of the tiger. I was like, oh, okay. And he started telling me the characteristics of people born in the year of the tiger. And I was like, well, you just nailed my personality. You just described me to a T. That's crazy. And I said to him, what about you? What are you? And he told me what animal he was. And he told me what animal this year was. And then I said, oh, okay, what year were you born in? And he said, 2013. I said, 2013? How were you born in 2013 and you're sitting here? He's like, because I'm 10. What grade was this? These were they fifth graders? Fifth grade? Yeah, it was fifth grade. Pretty sure it was fifth grade. Fifth grade math. Yeah, he's like, because I'm 10. I was like, 10-year-olds are in school now? 2013 was 10 years ago. That blew my mind. 2013 was 10 years ago. I thought it was just a few years ago. And you're sitting here in fifth grade. That was crazy. I don't know why that just blew my mind. And he was telling me the characteristics of people born in his year and which animal that was. I got up and I looked at the book. I said, let me see the book. And the book said it was all about China. He said he was from China. And it wasn't just the year of the fill in the blank. It was all kinds of, it's like the encyclopedias we used to have when I was a kid, telling you all about China. It was so interesting. I just loved that. It was a really cool conversation. When I was looking at the roster at the beginning of the day, I saw names on there and I was like, these are Arabic speakers. So I put on my Arabic hat because I learned some Arabic in my years of teaching ESOL and started to greet some of them in Arabic. And they were like, whoa, she speaks Arabic. I'm thinking, I really don't speak Arabic, but I have enough I know how to greet people. Good morning, good afternoon. How are you? Praise God. Thank you. Count to 5, those kind of things. She speaks Arabic. These kids was just so, as we say in England, chuffed to bits. I actually heard one of them saying to another kid in this other room, I've never had a teacher speak Arabic before. I just thought that was so cool. There was one girl who told me that the dialect that I was speaking was different from hers, and I've had a kid tell me that before. She said that she was Coptic Orthodox, and immediately I thought, I bet she's from Egypt. And I didn't say it. I wish I'd said it. But then she said, I'm Egyptian, and I should have said it. She would have been so impressed. But she was Egyptian. She was telling me which the Egyptian Coptic Orthodox Church that she attends in the Tampa Bay area, and I was like, how cool is that? There was a kid from Jordan. In elementary school, there were kids who look like kids, but there are some kids, even some of them as young as kindergarten, who just look like miniature adults. Sometimes it's their face, it's their hairstyle, sometimes it's the way that they dress, sometimes it's a mix of those things. But this boy, I think it was a mix of the way he was dressed, but also his face and his hair especially. He just looked like somebody took his father and just like made a miniature version. He was so cute. Now his English was really developing. In fact, there were some things he was trying to ask me that he could only say in Arabic, but he was learning English, but it was enough to have a conversation. He came over to speak to me because I think he felt a connection because I was trying to speak Arabic. There was even one point in the lesson where somebody asked how much time is left for this assignment. And I remembered the Arabic word for 5, hamsa. And the kids were so excited. She said 5 in Arabic. They translated for the rest of the class. So I think that brought a little connection. This little boy came, he told me he was from Jordan. We talked about the geography of Jordan and which countries surround it. And we talked about the fact that they suck at soccer. But I'm sorry, but your country is not known for soccer. In terms of World Cup. We started talking about countries in North Africa and the Middle East who are known for being good at soccer. Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia. What else did we talk about? He told me that this is a 10-year-old. He told me he's been to Mecca. I was like, I think he even said he's been twice. I was like, what? You've been on the Hajj? He said, yeah, I've been on the Hajj. I was like, what is it like? Was it like crazy crowded, like claustrophobic? He said, it is a lot of people, but he said he felt safe. And I couldn't remember if Hajjs were just for, if Mecca was just for men or if women were allowed, but he said no, women are there too. I think there is a separate section. I just thought that was the coolest thing that he'd been to Mecca, a little 10-year-old Jordanian boy. He asked me some questions about the UK. That's where I couldn't understand what he was saying because there were some things he was asking me, and but he was saying those things in Arabic, and I couldn't understand what he was trying to say to me. But it was such a cool conversation. I just loved that he was, telling me about his country, telling me about Mecca. So basically, for those who don't know, so he's been to Saudi Arabia on a pilgrimage, on a religious pilgrimage that you're supposed to, as a Muslim, do at least once in a lifetime. He's telling, he's done it. I think he said he's done it twice, and he was describing it. It was just so cool. I was a little bit jealous, actually. I was low key jealous. Um, but it was such a cool conversation. And this kid, and he was interested in the UK, and he asked me a lot of questions. But so this kid, he had very limited English. In fact, there was a time when it was like silent reading time, go read a book, and he said he wanted to go on the laptop and do the program that they had, that he was using to learn English because he wanted to improve his English. So his English was very limited, but this kid's math skills were through the roof. He was, because it's fifth grade math, so technically fifth grade math isn't hard. However, the way that it's been taught now is different from how I was taught. So I do not want to confuse these little babies. So sometimes I'll just figure out who in the class is really good at it, let them demonstrate on the board. So he was really proficient in math. He was really good at math. So he was learning English, but he was really good at math. So he was able to help some of his classmates show problems on the board, correct me where I was going wrong. Because I was like, huh? We didn't do that when I was a kid. We did it differently. But he was a math whiz. He was a really cool kid, a really cool 10-year-old, whose his bilingualism is burgeoning. So that's really cool. And he's well traveled. He's telling me about Jordan, tell me about Saudi Arabia. How cool is that? I just loved that conversation. When we switched in the afternoon, there was another boy who was from India, and he was a math whiz. And the way he was doing the problems on the board, first of all, you could tell he just felt so proud that he had the opportunity to do that. I remember when he left at the end of the day, he said to me, "Thank you for teaching us. You're a great teacher." I was like, "Oh, that's so sweet." And I'm thinking, if only you knew I suck at teaching math. That's why I had you up there. But I was like, "Oh, thank you. That's so sweet." But yeah, he was the one who was up there teaching math, and he was it was just so nice to be in a school that was so diversely different from the other schools that I've seen in this county, where, like I said, those classes I had in the morning and afternoon, I'm seeing kids from India, Pakistan, China. There was a few kids in there, China, from Vietnam, from Egypt, from Jordan. I just loved the diversity and the language diversity, because there was also Spanish speakers in there too, which was really cool. So I got to speak a little bit of Spanish as well. It was a fun day because it was very diverse. Yeah, I loved it. Loved it. So something really strange happened to me this week. And it's a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. So earlier in the week, I was talking to a very wise woman who was giving me some very wise counsel on some issues, and explaining to me that there is not always going to be an answer for everything that happens in life. There's not always going to be an explanation for everything that happens in life. Sometimes things don't make sense. Sometimes things are painful. There is not always going to be an explanation or an answer. You will drive yourself crazy trying to get that answer. The next day, I'm going through a Bible study of the Book of Acts with my good friend Pastor Chuck Smith. May his soul rest in peace. It's taken me verse by verse. It's taken months through the Book of Acts, and it's a good study. for some reason, we were studying the book of Acts. For some reason, what I was studying that day to the next day, he was mentioning the book of Job. The book of Job, for those who don't know, is a book in the Bible, comes right before Psalms, and it's about a man who loves God and obeys his commands and is very faithful to God. And there's this weird meeting in the heavens where it's God, the angels, and Satan shows up. Like, it's like the strangest faculty meeting I've ever heard of. It's like, why is Satan in the faculty meeting? It's like you leave a school, the school has a faculty meeting or a PLC, and you show up, but you don't even work for that district anymore because you quit. Why is Satan there? But he's there, and he's like, and God's like bragging on Job. Hey, you see my boy Job? Isn't he amazing? And then Satan's like, the devil's like, yeah, because you protect him. Duh, you bless him with everything. You protect him. Take those things away and see if he'll still happy. See if he'll still like praise you, love you, adore you as he does now, and obey you. Let's see. And God's like, oh, okay, let's see. Have at it. Just there's a certain boundary that you can't cross with him. So you can't kill him. But hey, have at it. Let's see. So then this whole book of this Bible, this poor man goes through all this stuff where now God has removed his protection from him and the devil's able to just mess with him. What, his kids die, loses all of his property, animals, wealth. I think he even gets sores all over his body. He sits there and laments through most of the book, just wishing for death. His three boys sit with him. Somebody says he should curse God and die, but I don't think that's his buddies. I think that's his wife who says he should curse God and dies. Side note, she always gets a bad name in church whenever she's mentioned, but I was like, but the woman lost her children though. Give this woman a break. She carried them and she lost them. That's a lot. But anyway, that's a side note. And then at the end, he still refuses to curse God and refuses to abandon God and still is faithful even though he's going through all this suffering. And God restores everything back to him. Everything that he lost is restored back to him. The kids, the wealth, the animals, the houses, everything. But there's a part that I've never really paid that much attention to, and that is before everything is restored back to him. After he's lamented and said, why me? Why this? It would be better if I just die and go down to hell. Hell must be better than this. And, chapters and chapters of lament, him and his friends lamenting with him. But then at the end, there's this part where God starts asking him questions. I've never paid attention to this before. I've never paid attention. But God says, okay, I've listened to you, whine and moan for all these chapters. I got some questions for you. And he starts challenging with these science questions about nature. Like, do you know where the wind comes from? Can you make lightning come from the sky? Have you seen where hailstones are kept? Do you know where the dark goes when the light goes on? It's what's interesting is some of those scientific questions, actually, when you go through it, are things that thousands and thousands and thousands of years later, we figured out the answer. Scientists have figured out the answer of some of those questions. It's really interesting scientific chapters. I think it's chapter 38, 39 and 40. 39, he starts asking about animals. Do you know how the eagle goes up there and knows how to build its nest up there? Do you know how the horse is able to run that fast? Can you make that? Can you make the animals give birth at this time? And like all these questions, basically, the bottom line is he's saying, you're not God, I am. You don't know everything, I do. And he even asked him one point, do you know what hell looks like? You talking about hell. Have you been there? Have you been to the depths of hell? Have you been to heaven? Do you know what it's like? And it's like I said, the conclusion he's basically saying is, you're not me. Only I am God. You don't have all the answers. You can't have all the answers because you're not sovereign. You're not supreme. You're not supreme being. So that happens the next day after I have this conversation where this lady's explaining to me that you can't always have the answers for everything. Some things just don't make sense. She said, think about it. The fact that you believe in a God that you've never seen and you even pray to him, that actually doesn't make sense, that you believe it. There's a lot of things that don't make sense. Then fast forward the next day and I'm at a school, the strangest thing ever, high school. And I experience a boy who is in so much pain. And I understand the pain he's in because I too lost my mother 2 years ago. However, what I don't understand, because I've never felt this, is the pain of losing a mother at age 17. That pain I don't understand. But I do, because I was in my late 40s when I lost my mom. So I had her for almost 50 years. He's lost his mother. In his senior year. He's 17. He's sitting at a table with some friends. A conversation that starts off like a regular conversation turns into like almost like a argument screaming match about religion. Just a simple question. Like I'm asking, oh, you have scholarships for sports? Which schools? He starts listing the schools because I was eavesdropping. And I said, oh, those are both Christian schools. That's interesting. And you said that the high school you were at before this one was a Christian high school. So you attend church? He said, yeah, I'm Catholic. So then the other boys at the table who they're Christians but they're not Catholics start asking, what's the difference? He doesn't want to get into it. He's like, we just have different Bibles. There's lots of different Bibles. There's a Catholic Bible. There's different versions of the Bible. And we all believe in God, but we just, we have different stories is the way he was explaining it. We have different ways of explaining it, things. I could tell he just was trying to brush it off. These kids kept going and kept going and kept going. And he specified to them, I believe in God. I believe in heaven and hell. I believe in heaven and hell. I'm trying to work things out, basically. But these boys start pressing him. And he starts saying something. And I'm sitting at the desk. I'm just listening. He starts saying something. And I realized, oh, he was like, because they're talking about how God is, they're talking about God. And he's just like, he starts saying, but why did he kill my mom then? Then why did he kill my mom? I'm like, oh, he must have just lost his mother. And he keeps on saying it. And they're like, and he keeps on saying, but why didn't he save her? She was a good person. She went to church. We were praying. Why didn't he save her? Why didn't he answer that prayer? And these three boys are saying things to him that I think a lot of believers mistakenly say to people in situations that we shouldn't say. It's like a rote phrases that we have that we need to get rid of because they don't work in these situations, perhaps not at all. And they didn't say, well, she's in a better place, which is one of the phrases that we say that doesn't help people when they're in grief. But they did say things like, well, was she a believer? He's like, I told you she goes to church, but he still didn't save her. And they're like, well, going to church attendance doesn't mean that she's saved and she's a believer. Did she have a relationship with Jesus? And I'm thinking, what does that have to do with her dying? I'm so confused. How is this helping this boy? And then when he's saying, but we prayed and nothing answered, so what am I supposed to think? Obviously, he's God and he can do whatever, but he didn't save her. And they're saying these rote Christian phrases. Everything happens for a reason. God knows what he's doing. It's not God, it's the devil. It's just like, and it's turning into an argument because the boy's coming back and saying, that makes no sense, which it doesn't. That makes no sense. She served God her whole life. He didn't save her. We prayed. Everybody prayed. He said, if you had a relative and you prayed for God to heal them and they healed them, wouldn't you say, thank you, God, praise God? Okay, so what if you had a relative and you prayed and they weren't healed? What would you say? I'm listening to all of this and I'm just like, this is crazy because this ties into the conversation I had with the woman who was trying to help me work through some things 2 days earlier. When I myself am questioning and saying about myself, why did my mother die of cancer? Why did that guy that I know, and this is a true story, who was diagnosed the same time as my mom, why did his family get 2 extra years with him? And my mom, she was taken out 5 weeks later, which is crazy because really what happened was that man, his family just watched him go, get better, get worse, get better, get worse, and just deteriorate, wither away. That's not a nice experience, I'm saying, why did I go through a breast cancer scare for 4 months? What was the purpose of that, There has to be a reason, there has to be a purpose. Well, no, she's trying to help me work through that and say, not necessarily. No, not necessarily. And then the next day I'm reading about Job, where Job has so many questions of God, and God is basically saying, you're not God. You don't know the answers to everything. I'm God, I'm sovereign. Now this boy is sitting here in so much pain, and these boys who are Christians are arguing with him, challenging his faith. And the boy's in grief. I asked him, I said, when did your mother pass away? He said 2 months ago. I said, oh my God, I am so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry. This is new. It was fresh. This poor boy. Now he's in this battle. And he's already told these people he believes in God. He believes in heaven and hell. I don't know why they couldn't see that. But anyway, perhaps you've never been in that situation. Then you've never been in that situation. And I said to them, I said, look, first of all, he's already told you I had to interject. He's already told you he believes in God. He said he believes in heaven and hell. He said he's trying to work some things out. He said, and I said to the boy, I said, can I just tell you that in life, you're going to go through some things that are painful, that are hard, that make no sense, that we try to make sense of them, understand, but they don't make any sense. And then they won't, perhaps some of them won't make sense on this side of eternity. Perhaps not even on the other side either, because we're not God. But it doesn't make it any less painful or any hard. And I'm so sorry for your loss. And I said to him, what you're saying right now, what you're experiencing is a very normal human reaction to hurt, pain, and grief. And it said, it's the experience of, I know that God exists. I love him, but I'm mad as hell at him right now. I know there's a God and I believe it, but I'm so pissed off with him right now because he didn't save my mom. I said, that's what you're experiencing right now. And I want you to know that's a completely normal human reaction, even for a believer, for a Christian. It doesn't make you any less of a believer. It just makes you human. I said, I lost my mother 2 years ago. I experienced that then. I said, and I'm still kind of in that space. I'm still kind of experiencing that. And that kind of toned down the argument. And the boys laid off and he understood. And there was also a girl sitting by them who was so tired that she was like, I don't want to hear this argument. I don't want to hear this. You guys need to just stop. But I told him that. And it tied in with what I'd heard from the book of Job and what the lady had told me about us wanting answers for things that are painful and that make no sense. But unfortunately, sometimes in this life, there are things that are painful and hard that we don't have answers for. They make no sense. And they may never make sense to us in this earth or even in the next eternity that we go to. At the end of the class, he had to leave early to go to another class. And I intercepted him at the doorway because I didn't want to talk to him about this in front of anyone. And I said to him, can I just tell you that when I lost my mom, one of the things I did was grief counseling. And I don't know if you've considered that, but I would maybe consider that because what you're going through is so hard. You really need to talk to somebody. And he said, yeah, I've considered it and I might do that. And he mentioned that something that I got from what he mentioned that perhaps when he was younger, there was a separation or a divorce and there was like forced counseling for the child. And what he said in the counseling was perhaps used to place him with the mother or the father. And that perhaps that put something in his mind against counseling, like they're going to use my words against me. But at the same time, he said he was open to it. And he also said that there was a teacher at the school that he'd been talking with, which I loved. That's how it is in high school. We really do become counselors, you know. But I'm glad that he had that teacher, and I'm glad that he's open to counseling. And then when he left, I spoke to the other boys and I said, did you not hear him say that he believes in God? Why were you guys arguing about religion? He's telling you he believes in God. This boy is in grief. It's a process. You have to let him walk through that process, and you should just support him. I didn't say this to them, but I should have said, like Job's friends sat next to him and supported him, not argue with him. And they agree with me, say, yeah, you're right. I don't know why I was in that school, but I was in that school for a purpose that day, to meet with that boy and talk to him about a shared experience, about what it's like to lose your mother and to be angry with God about the loss. And the funniest thing is, I was talking to somebody a few days ago and the person asked me, do you feel like you make an impact as a substitute teacher? And I said, no, because to me, teaching is all about relationships. And when I was in the classroom, I was able to forge and build relationships over time with students. And because of that, I was able to make an impact in their life. And that person said, I don't think so. I think you can still make a difference. I said, how can I make a difference when I'm in and out? I'm literally in and out. I don't know them. And then 2 days later, I make a difference in somebody's life because I know I was placed there on purpose to have that conversation, not just with that boy, but with the other boys who were around him too. So now I realize that I was wrong and that as a substitute, even though I am just in and out, I can make a difference in the life of a young person or even of an adult in the school.
So thank you for listening to this episode of Education Today. We'll be back next time with more current topics on all things education. In the meantime, you can email any questions or comments you have about the show to edtodaypodcast@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, please hit the subscribe button on whichever platform you are listening so we can continue to expand our reach. If you'd like to hear more from me, you can check out my blog for more about my experiences as a classroom teacher at medium.com/@SOKOR. That's medium.com/@SOHKOR. You can also find me on Instagram at @SOKOR_rights. That's SOHKOR_rights.